Hi, I'm Naji Bullo, and this is the third lesson. In this video, we'll go over how the lighting and materials were created, and we'll also take a look at the post-production process in After Effects. The first hour of this lesson is available on YouTube, where I show how the animation was made. Enjoy watching. Let's start by assigning a simple glass shader to a large sphere so that light sources are reflected in it. Alright, now let's add our first HDR. Drag it into the light folder and use it as the main lighting source. We'll slightly increase the intensity and adjust the rotation to get better reflections. By adjusting the rotation of the HDR, you control where the highlights appear. Let's duplicate the current HDR and add a number to its name, just to keep things organized. Now we'll lower its intensity and disable the original HDR. In this duplicate, we can change the HDR image if needed, and, of course, we'll also tweak the rotation a bit to bring the window reflection into view. You can already see the reflection, but it looks a bit too blurry. Let's open the material and reduce the blur. And there it is. The window reflection is now clearly visible. Alright, let's add an HDR image with clouds and the sun, and adjust the rotation settings to get some nice sun flares. As you can see, the orange glare has appeared. Exactly the effect we were aiming for. This is my first time using this method. I added 3 different HDRIs to get varied reflections across different parts of the scene. Now let's add some lighting to create a backglow around the objects. But first, let's bring back the visibility of all scene elements. Our light source was too small, so we'll scale it up. I'll enter the same values I used in the original scene. To make it affect only the bright areas, we'll reduce everything else to 0 and keep only the reflection. As you can see, a glowing line appears around our object. Looks good. Next, let's add another light source for the background. For this, I'm using my favorite gobos. Let's reduce the intensity to 4.1 so the lighting around the lines looks softer. Alright, back to the gobos. We'll also increase the size to what we need. And don't forget to lower the spread. This controls the beam's fall-off angle. The lower the value, the narrower and more focused the light becomes. And now, as you can see, the background is brighter. The lighting isn't even, and that's exactly what we want. Alright, let's start setting up the material. First, in the transmission section, we'll add a green color and increase the depth to 200 to make the color more saturated. Then we'll set the scatter color to white. This will create internal light diffusion, similar to frosted glass or milk. Next, under the coat settings, we'll only adjust the roughness and in the weight parameter, we'll connect a Fresnel using a ramp. This gives us a soft, blurred reflection along the edges. Now, let's duplicate the material and use a material blender to mix both using a mask. I added the second material to bring in a metallic look with green edges. The top edge is gray, the bottom is green, and inside there's a smooth blend of gray and green. Hope that makes sense. For the remaining materials, I used pretty much the same parameters as before. At this point, I believe everything should be quite clear, so I won't go over each one in detail again. The logic stays the same throughout. And of course, if anything seems confusing, feel free to go back and rewatch the earlier steps where I explain things more thoroughly. Almost every time before post-processing, I render my scene intentionally a bit flat. Not too bright, not too contrasty. The reason for that is simple. It gives me much more control during the post-production stage. When the render is neutral, I can fine-tune every aspect of the image, from highlights and shadows to the overall color balance, without fighting against baked-in contrast. In fact, in about 90% of my projects, the final result really comes together during post. This is often the stage where I decide to shift the lighting mood or even change the entire color palette, depending on the feeling I want to convey. So yeah, I always treat post-processing not as a final polish, but as a key creative step in shaping the look of the whole scene. Thank you for watching and for your support. I hope this lesson was helpful for you. See you next time.